Hello, and welcome to the Freight Flow Advisor Brief. Well, it finally happened. Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern refiled their amended merger application. Exactly 104 days after the STB unanimously ruled the application incomplete. Now, I've had a chance to review parts of this application, and there is a summary of changes. But what caught my eye is this isn't just a resubmission with a few tweaks. This is almost a fundamentally different application, and it might be the most data-rich merger filing in U.S. railroad history. Now, whether that's true and whether this new submission will be enough to clear the regulatory gauntlet still remains to be seen. But it's the $85 billion question. So today, I just want to cover a few things. First, I want to talk about what was wrong with the initial application, and then we'll go into what the fixes were, along with some additional things that UP added in. So the first thing wrong was that the numbers didn't match the story. UP and NS spend hundreds of pages arguing that they grow combined traffic 1.86 million carloads through truck conversion and rail-to-rail diversions. Then they submitted 2023 actual market share data as their projected competitive picture. The STB called this out directly. Essentially, you can't claim 15 to 26% traffic growth and show us today's snapshot as evidence the merged company won't dominate. Federal regulations under 49 CFR 1180.7 require genuine forward-looking projections, corridor by corridor, commodity by commodity, reflecting what the market actually looks like after the growth happens. That's not what they initially gave the board. The fix to this is at the heart of the entire resubmission, and it's genuinely significant. Here's what they did. For the first time in any U.S. railroad proceeding, the applicants built their analysis on 100% actual traffic files from 6 Class 1 carriers: UP, NS, BNSF, CN, CPKC, and CSX. Those files were produced through the STB's regulatory discovery process. All railroads were compelled to hand them over, though several delivered them too late for their original December filing. Charles River and Associates then stitched together the 6 datasets into one unified dataset, linking interline movements and eliminating double counts. So the resulting competitive analysis showed the combined UP NS post-merger market share would be roughly equivalent to BNSF's current market share, meaning the merged railroad competes with and not dominates the existing Western giant. It also meant no business economic area in the U.S. sees its Class 1 railroad count reduced from 3 to 2 or 2 to 1. Last, no corridor drops from 2 Class 1 carriers to 1. And they didn't just fix the data problem. They went over and beyond. They brought in 2 entirely new expert economists to bolster the competitive case. Dr. Mark Israel, one of the world's most prominent antitrust economists, and his analysis demonstrates the UP-NS merger creates no meaningful loss of competitive routing options. The second expert was Dr. Elizabeth Bailey, vice president at Charles River Associates with over 20 years in antitrust and competition economics. She has a PhD from MIT and recognized globally as a thought leader. Bailey's critical loss analysis demonstrates no meaningful geographic competition harm from the merger. Both methodologies mirror frameworks used in prior STB proceedings. The board knows these tools. They trust them. Okay, let's talk about the second deficiency, Schedule 5.8. When UP and NS submitted their merger agreement, they quietly redacted Schedule 5.8, the provision defining materially burdensome regulatory condition. Translation: the list of STB imposed conditions under which Union Pacific reserved the contractual right to walk away from the deal. CN flagged this in a January 8th motion. CPKC and CSX supported it, and the STB agreed. If UP has pre-negotiated conditions, it will refuse. The board and every intervening party needs to see that to fairly evaluate what approval would actually mean. So how UP fixed this is the complete merger agreement, including Schedule 5.8, is now filed as Exhibit 2 in Volume 4 of the public record. The applicant stated that they went further than required in entering these documents publicly. The third deficiency was the TRRA. The Terminal Railroad Association of St. Louis, or TRRA, is a critical interchange gateway. UP and NS pushed this acquisition through as a minor sub-application to avoid full competitive scrutiny. The STB rejected the framing entirely, ruling it was a significant transaction requiring a standalone competitive analysis. So, how this was fixed was rather than reclassifying the TRRA application as significant and opening another major competitive battleground, UP and NS made a binding deal, conditioned commitment to divest NS's TRRA stake entirely. NS holds approximately 14.29% of TRRA. Under the amended filing, those shares will be redistributed equally to UP and other current TRRA owners, essentially dropping UP's post-merger stake below the control threshold. Now, there is a similar commitment that was made on TTX Company, where combined ownership will be capped at no more than 50%. I want to highlight one more fix. All methodology level concerns flagged in the board's technical appendix to Decision 9 were addressed in detail, primarily through confidential work papers submitted under the STB protective order. Now, here are some things that they added that nobody required of them. $3.5 billion annually in shipper savings. And this is confirmed using the superior 100% traffic data. Approximately 1,230 new union jobs by year 3. That's up 900 from the original filing. 24 to 48 fewer hours in transit on approximately 1 million shipments annually. In fact, CEO Mark George stated coast-to-coast delivery could match 4-day truck times. There's also a 7th premium intermodal lane, Northern California to the southeast. And as we spoke about before, committed gateway pricing. It's a formalized competitive framework allowing BN and CSX to offer shippers single line transcontinental pricing over the combined network. And get this, more than 2,000 support statements from shippers, state officials, ports, and economic development groups filed in Volume 3. So I guess the question is this enough? So listen, before we get into the opposition, and trust me, the opposition is much louder. Let's talk about something you can actually control. Your freight intelligence. The UP and NS merger is going to reshape rail pricing, routing options, and the competitive dynamics for the next generation. Whether you're a shipper trying to model cost exposure or a 3PL trying to stay ahead of the market, you need real-time freight intelligence before the rate environment shifts. That's where Freight FA comes in. Freight FA is the only AI-powered cost estimate tool built specifically for logistics and supply chain decision makers. You get instant, accurate freight cost estimates across all modes: truck, rail, intermodal, ocean, and air. And it's powered by Freight GPT, our proprietary AI that learns shipping patterns and gives you smarter recommendations over time. No more waiting for quotes. No more outdated spreadsheets. Just real-time intelligence you can act upon. Head to freightfa.com right now to see how much you could be saving. Get started for free. No credit card, no sales call, just results. That's freightfa.com. All right, let's talk about the giant elephant in the room, the opposition. The amended application landed a day after the formal launch of Stop the Rail Merger Coalition. And this isn't your typical industry pushback. This is the most organized, broad-based opposition in U.S. railroad merger history. The coalition includes BNSF Railway, CPKC, the Teamsters Rail Conference, the American Chemistry Council, the American Farm Bureau, National Industrial Transportation League, Alliance for Chemical Distribution, and the Vinyl Institute. And they report backing from more than 100 state and federal policymakers, including attorneys general and agriculture secretaries. Their core arguments are simple and devastating. The merger would give one railroad control over nearly half of the U.S. rail traffic. Less competition means higher shipping rates passed through to consumers. UP has a documented history of cutting jobs after merger. UP volumes have declined 13% over the past decade. Every major rail merger has caused service disruptions. UP's 1996 SP merger integration led to network chaos that forced the STB to extend the oversight twice. The deal fails the STB's 2001 standard requiring mergers to enhance rail-to-rail competition, not merely maintain it. Again, these are their core arguments. And here's the kicker. Their polling shows 71% of likely voters oppose this merger. Just 20% support it. And 68% believe the merged company would keep promised cost savings for itself. So now, supporters of the merger pushed back immediately, noting that BN and CPKC are hardly neutral parties. And that brings us to Jim Vena. On UP's Q1 2026 earnings call, Vena was asked directly about the opposition. and the growth projections. Here's what he said.
What we are going to put forward in the application and why it's much more compelling case now. The experts that we've hired are clearly going to show where their opportunity is. We know that on a service level, a seamless railroad is able to move products at less cost. Therefore, even the pricing is going to be beneficial for our customers because of our less cost. And we're going to be able to serve our customers with a product that allows them to save on their own costs internally. For our employees, we were real clear, and we've been clear right from the start, that our employees, our unionized employees, they should be part of the win of a new railroad that goes across the country. And we've guaranteed a job for everyone. When we look at the fundamental, we look at the facts of what this combination will deliver for both the country in being able to expedite, take trucks off of the highway, move products in a much more seamless, open up new markets for customers, provide service to some underserved markets that today, optionally, they end up going with trucks instead of going by rail. We are more convicted now than we ever have been when you take a look at what's in the merger application and all the detail.
More convicted than ever. That's the line. And here's the thing. Vena is not wrong to be confident about the procedural side. The amended application is materially stronger. The data foundation is superior. The transparency concerns are resolved. And the TRRA issue is eliminated. But this is the first Class 1 merger reviewed under STB's 2001 Enhanced Competition Standard. And here's something that most people aren't talking about. The STB isn't the only one evaluating what UP and NS chose to submit. In March 2026, the board sided with the DOJ and ordered both railroads to produce ordinary course documents. This includes internal competitive analysis, market studies, and confidential memos. It even includes third-party banker and consultant studies. The STB's ruling was blunt. These documents are critical in evaluating a merger and may be more probative than, quote, party advocacy, expert analysis, and self-serving statements, end quote. If UP's own internal strategy documents showed executives privately projecting market dominance while publicly arguing the opposite, the STB will have that evidence. And that's really the wild card that nobody's talking about. So where do we go from here? Comments for completeness are due May 8th, with applicants' reply May 12th. If accepted as complete, discovery and public hearings will run through the remainder of 2026. A final STB decision is projected for Q1 or Q2 of 2027. The merger agreement extends to January 28th of 2028 with automatic extensions. So here's my take. I think the initial December filing had a lot of things wrong. It was procedurally broken, data deficient, and it lacked transparency. The April filing, however, the procedural fixes are real. The data upgrade is unprecedented. The expert firepower is formidable, but also the opposition is unprecedented. So if you're in the freight industry and this merger affects you, buckle up. This is going to be a 12 to 18 month regulatory battle that will define American freight rail for the next century. You can track this proceeding at stb.gov and up-ns-transcontinental.com and stoptherailmerger.com. So listen, there's still more to analyze with the new amended documents. These are some of the things that just quickly stood out as we began to break down the resubmission. If you've enjoyed this episode, share it with a colleague in the freight industry. Be sure to head over to LinkedIn and follow us on the Freight Flow Advisor, where we will be providing updates about this on the regular. Now, if you want further in-depth analysis, we have that for you. Just head over to substack.com and search the Freight FA Brief, where we break this down much further in detail. And as always, remember, you can listen to the Freight FA Brief on Substack, Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Until next time, this has been your Freight Flow Advisor Brief.